What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. This week's video was supposed to be focused in on firing this thing up and getting it one step closer to backing it out of the garage. But in the spirit of transparency, in the goal of kind of showing the behind the scenes of what goes into projects like these, and to show the things that don't really get shown on YouTube or get, you know, just the things that you don't really see, you don't really experience. I thought I would take you through some of the shenanigans that went on this last week and kind of show, really, I think there were like 4 issues I had in getting this thing fired up. So let's just get into it. First issue, coolant. I got this radiator installed, started to fill up the rest of the coolant, and found a leak at the thermostat housing. The gasket between the thermostat housing and the intake was leaking. Sufficient enough that I had to fix it. So tore it all apart, cleaned both surfaces, cut a new gasket, placed some new RTV in there, put it all back together, let it set up overnight, filled it up, still leaked. So did it all again. Finally got it to the point where it is now. It still has a leak. It has like 1 or 2 drops every so often. I'm okay with it for now. To get this thing running and dialed in, it's fine. Once I get done kind of getting everything situated, when I replace all the fluids, I'll fix that leak at that time. But for now, it's fine. Second issue, fuel. So I finally got around to doing a leak check on the entire fuel system. So turned the ignition on to get the pump running, got under the truck to look at the lines, found a couple of leaks back at the pump and the filter. Fittings weren't quite tight enough, got that situated. Came up here and there was fuel everywhere. It looked like it had come out of pretty much every seal out of the carburetor, and the meter on the fuel pressure regulator was pegged at, that thing shows 15 PSI, but that thing was pegged. My suspicion is that that regulator couldn't handle the approximately 75 PSI or so that was coming out of the fuel pump. And I think it just blew right through the regulator, which caused the carburetor to basically flood out, and it completely hydrolocked the engine. I mean, it was solid. It wouldn't even attempt to turn over. So had to deal with that. Had to get the engine dried out, kind of hand crank the engine after a while and get some of the fuel out of there, deal with the carburetor, and I ended up getting a new electric fuel pump that only puts out about 9 PSI. It's meant for a carbureted setup. That 75 PSI pump that I have really is for my plans to eventually go fuel injection. And I thought that Holley regulator there would handle it. I need to dig deeper. I don't think it's the regulator's fault per se. I think I may have just picked up the wrong regulator and got something that can't handle that much pressure and regulate it down to a carbureted situation. So I need to dig into that further. But for now, I bought a cheap eBay 9 PSI pump, got it installed, and now I have no more fuel issues. And this thing, I did have it running, which I'll go into more in a minute, but got the fuel issue figured out. Third issue, my ignition box. That was a wiring issue that I screwed up. So in wiring this thing, it uses a constant power and it uses a switched 12 volt power. It says or suggests to use the old positive coil connection for the switched source, which, according to the wiring diagram that I have, I did, sort of. I took that wire that came out of the firewall here as a switch source. Well, looking closer at the drawings, that wire was actually from the one side of the old ballast resistor. There wasn't any voltage on that wire coming out of the firewall. The voltage actually came from the other side of the ballast resistor, and that's what I should have plugged into. It was funny because I had it plugged in and I had started it, or I had cranked it and it fired off using a trigger connected to the starter relay. Worked fine. When I went to crank it from inside, it would crank, but there was no spark, and I couldn't figure out why. After about a day of digging through wiring diagrams and figuring out exactly where I screwed up, I got that figured out. So now I have a good switch source going to my ignition box, got that all sorted out, and it fires right up. And the fourth issue I ran into were those exhaust pipes that I built. So once I got the fuel issue figured out and got everything else dealt with, I fired this thing up and it was stupid loud in here. I mean, it sounded like open headers. But I let it run for a while. I wanted everything to warm up and see about getting fluids flowing and just checking other things. When I shut down, I got up under the truck to see if I could see any signs of exhaust leaks or, you know, things not tight, stuff like that. And I found a bunch of gas. From when I hydrolocked the engine, I guess a lot of that gas got pushed out through the exhaust valves into the exhaust system, and when it lit off, it finally just kind of blew all that out the back end. And there were spots where some of my welds, I guess, still had pinholes, and some of those clamp joints, while they were tight, they weren't quite tight enough, and so there was fuel dripping from those locations also. But I think the biggest issue that I had was with these right here. So these are aluminum gaskets that I attempted to use that went between the collector on the header and my exhaust pipe. They're pretty thick, and I thought maybe that being aluminum and being this thick that it would just help seal better. Yeah, these I don't think worked all that well. I did notice a lot of distortion in my flange coming from the exhaust pipe side that bolted up to the header. There was a lot of distortion in that. It really kind of didn't seem like it seated. It didn't look like it sealed real well. Looking at this, I mean, it looks like they did, but I ended up replacing these with the actual gaskets that came with the headers. I did end up rebuilding a couple of pipes, and I re-welded a couple of others. It's still loud. I'm probably going to do some more welding on some of those clamp joints that I was hoping to keep kind of there to be able to remove the exhaust if need be. I'm probably going to weld some of those up. It's still kind of loud. Not as loud as it was, but I think these were the main culprit. So I don't know how much I would really suggest going with something like that. And that leads to the real issue of why I'm not firing up the truck today. The issue that I am currently getting ready to work on when I get done recording this. So, got it all together, got it fired up, running, getting everything kind of heat cycled, fluids flowing, and just kind of working on tuning in the idle, which I set up a quick little gauge cluster here. It's got a tach, it's actually got my transmission temp, and it's got a location for another gauge that I may want to add to for just doing engine runs like this. Just letting it kind of run and looking for issues and dealing with stuff. I have no transmission. That's just the best way that I can put it. I put it in gear and nothing. No reverse, no forward, no nothing. I do have fluid flowing to the cooler or to the thermostat, which would in turn go to the cooler when that opens. So I don't think it's my pump, but I am getting ready to pull the valve body. I've had this thing draining overnight, and actually, like I said, as soon as I get done recording this, the pan's coming off and the valve body's coming out. I went to do a line pressure check on it yesterday, and I had 0 line pressure. First test failed, so I just stopped it right there. So that's what I'm working on now. That will probably be in the next video once I hopefully get this figured out. I'm hoping I find something simple, disconnected something in there, maybe some debris inside the valve body. I don't know, but that is the reason why I'm not going to fire this thing up today. I really want to tear into that and get it working, and I will share that with you guys once I get that hashed out. So thanks for watching. I hope you guys kind of enjoy these behind the scenes kind of things, kind of showing the issues, showing the real life side of our hobby. You know, it's a lot of this stuff when you watch other YouTube channels, or you watch some of the old TV shows of restorations and car projects and stuff, they never really show what goes wrong. They say, here's what I'm going to do, here's me doing it, and look, it all works. It never really goes that smooth. There's always something. So again, hope you guys got something out of this. Hope you enjoy these kind of behind the scenes. So thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you on the next one.